So today I am testing out some new art materials for plein air painting. So I got a new little 100% cotton watercolor sketchbook from Paul Rubens. It's surprisingly hard to find them in this size, like really hard for some reason. I don't know why. So this is one of the only ones I could find actually. And then let's see, I got this little kit off of Amazon that has, it comes with a little water pot that will clip onto your book. And then it's a little, a little watercolor pan set that you can fill with your own watercolors. I just put some cheap ones in there. These are the Artist Loft watercolors, super cheap, but they work just fine for something like this. And then you can actually, it comes with a little clip that you can clip, Lucky, shh, that you can clip your watercolors onto, and then you can actually clip that onto your notebook as well. I'm not gonna do that today because I have a table. So my dog is very unhappy that the guys left to go do archery. So he's here guarding the table and he doesn't feel very excited about it, I'm afraid. And then I have some new travel watercolor brushes, so we'll see how all this works out. All right, so it's kind of cloudy right now, so the lighting isn't great, but this is the area that I'm painting. And little pup has calmed down a bit. So this is the sketch I have right now. Did my best, but the dog was quite a distraction. And now I'm gonna get started painting. All right, so this is what I have so far. It's not perfect. I need a lot more practice working with watercolor in this kind of scenario. I think I'm gonna go in with pen and kind of try to create more detail and contrast. I think that'll help. But yeah, you can tell I need some work on watercolor for sure. Well, it's an improvement. The sun came out for like a solid 5 minutes and gave me like a little bit more contrast to work with, but it's probably just not really the best subject, to be honest. So of course, the minute I get back in the car, and by the way, it was freezing out there and the wind just wouldn't stop blowing on me. Now the sun comes out. Alright, so I'm back home, and I had dinner and everything, and now I've had a chance to kind of like come back and look at this, and there's some things on here that are driving me crazy that I would very much like to fix. So I'm going to. So I'll just kind of talk about what I'm noticing here. So first of all, there's some places that are lacking in texture that I think it would help. The whole thing is lacking in contrast, right? Everything looks like it's the same color practically. And you know, that is because everything out there is kind of a similar color, but it's not as close as you're seeing right here. And the distance doesn't look as distant as it should. And I think I could add more texture to the things that are up close and kind of clarify what's happening with this Palo Verde tree right here. Because what this is a Palo Verde tree that has a ton of mistletoe in it. And it's actually a very cool looking tree, but there's just so much happening that when you look at it, you just can't tell what you're even seeing. So, yeah, and I also, the sky, the blue is a little too saturated. I'd like to fix that, especially since for a lot of the afternoon there were clouds. And I think if I kind of made the clouds appear, it might kind of make the color in this make more sense. So I'm going to try and fix a few things. I think this yellow was wrong. So this stripe up here has kind of like some pinks and some kind of very pale kind of yellow tan colors up there, and so I need to try and fix that too. I can't leave it like this. It's driving me crazy. I will say, however, that I love this paper. It actually reminds me a lot of the Strathmore 500 mixed media paper that I like to use so much. So I would definitely get another one of these little notebooks. And the big selling point for me was that this notebook was 100% cotton and the size. So it's really portable. It's like 3x5 basically. Yeah. So let's see what I can do. I'm still going to keep using the same watercolors. And I'm not sure if I can lift much of this blue or not. It might be kind of a staining blue. I don't know. So we'll see. Okay, I feel better about this now. I mean, the colors still seem maybe a little overly vibrant in some places, but that's okay. I feel like this is at least something you can look at and kind of see what is happening here. So, like I said before, I think I have a lot more practicing to do. It's really hard to do these things when you just have very little time. Like, I like to take my time, and I like to kind of, I get like a vision in my head, and I like to follow through with that as well as I can, and it's just kind of impossible to do in these outdoor conditions when you have very little time. It's a good exercise to kind of like push you out of your comfort zone. So I am going to keep doing this, and hopefully I'll get better at it. So I think in the future I'll probably put more time into that pen sketch before I start watercolor, and I think that'll make a difference. I'm also just kind of learning the different colors in this palette and how they work out, and how dark some of them need to be and whatnot. So painting the desert is complicated. It's different than a lot of other scenery, so I think you have to kind of like really, like every single one of these greens, for instance, I almost always had to add a brown to it to kind of have it create that kind of almost like olive green kind of color that you see everywhere. But if you look at the Sonoran Desert, there's just so many different varieties of green. Everything is just green and like different shades of reddish brown. And that's just like when it's not flowering. So when it starts to flower, then you get all sorts of other like wildflowers and things that are really interesting. But I have this like lifelong struggle with Palo Verde trees. They are a monster to draw. They're just really hard to convey in pen. Like saguaros, you can tell I really like drawing saguaros, and I've drawn a whole lot of saguaros in my life, and there's just something very like peaceful. It's like doing a line drawing because you have all these like lines and these different shapes, and it's kind of meditative. But Palo Verde trees, while they are very pretty to look at in person, are just, they're kind of, I don't know, they're mysterious trees. And these ones that have been attacked by mistletoe have this tendency to kind of split and do this kind of sagging weeping willow thing. And it is just honestly like really hard to draw. So also all the little bushes everywhere are a real pain too. That's a thing I've never quite figured out how to do well. So these are all like challenges I have for myself that I'm going to keep working on.